You are watching Omnis Protocol, and this is a list-focused episode. I am Charles, also known as Omnis. I am here with the greatest Dyzard Lizard Wizard there has ever been of Rogue support. Thank you for doing this episode with me, my dude.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always a good time to talk about our favorite Beskar-clad pistol shooter dad thing.
Oh, dude, I played a game with him the other day. Oh, man, he was sniper rifling like it was no one's business. He was wounding every single activation. I was like, damn, my Mando has never done this before.
I was in the middle of a game with the purest of Christophers, and he went and shot something, and I went to go reactive with Mando. And he's like, oh no. It's just one of the best feelings in the world when Mando is just like, and that's mine.
Yep. All right. Well, the list that we're talking about today is one of my favorite, probably, this might even be the list that I have played the most in 2025. Okay. So it is, one squad is Mando, Bossk, Baze, and Chirrut, which has quickly become one of my favorite squads, like, in the entire game. And I played it with a bunch of different things. But one of my favorites to play it with is the Riff box. So that's Riff with Nossor and the Aqua Droids. So after, I showed you this list, what was your initial thoughts, Diz? Did you have any, jump out thoughts, either negative or positive?
So what was real funny was you sent me this list shortly after. You sent it to me after I had Leland go play Mother, right? But like the Mother Mando list. And I was like, man, Baze and Chirrut is such a move over Han and Chewie. But man, Baze and Chirrut they're so good right now. But I love it. I love Mando Bossk 5 cost. I think this is like the Mando build. If you want to take Mando to a event or just a game store to play a game, and you want to play good Shatterpoint, Mando Bossk 5 cost is insanely good.
Yeah, so let's start there. Obviously, I think the core thing of this list is playing Mando, who is one of the best primaries in the game, like across the board. Like you can just kind of play there's no matchup in the game where you're ever like sad you brought Mando.
Yeah.
Right? And then Baze and Chirrut are kind of the same way. There's pretty much no matchup where you're unhappy that you have Baze and Chirrut on the table. Yeah, definitely sometimes they get pushed. Sometimes they get murdered, right? They will definitely die. But overall, you just feel like they get general good work done throughout the game, and they can be kind of a force neutral activation. Now, to do these two characters together and have all of their strength, you end up kind of required to play a 3. And there's some conversation, but I like Bossk a lot. And he's kind of like general solid range attack, but he's not, he's just kind of maybe average to slightly above average. Do you agree with that as kind of an overall take with Bossk in kind of a general sense?
In a general sense, which is key here. I think this is like pretty spot on. Bossk is just a general good threat just because he can move himself. He has a decent gun. Average dice is average results, and he does stuff. There's nothing wrong with him. And if your opponent misses their hit on him, you're kind of loving it, and you're just like I think people underrate how good his full heal actually is, and how that can just change a game. Because if I send a unit into Bossk and I don't kill him, I now have to commit a whole second activation into him, or I just wasted the whole activation. So now I have to waste 2 activations into him. It's so annoying to have to deal with Bossk. He is a harasser.
Yeah, he's got a really good tree. He's got really solid dice. He's got solid offensive expertise. He's got the defenses of a clone, right? Like it's not anything special.
It's worse than that now.
Yeah. But where this list really starts to shine, where you're like, okay, I'm playing Mando and Baze and Chirrut, and I got Bossk. But when Bossk gets dialed up a notch, he becomes quite exceptional. And where the whole list starts feeling like, oh man, this feels better than 8 squad points. And Nossor is a great way to do that. Yeah. Like having both Nos can move Bossk back onto a point if he just gets shoved off. So you don't have to reactivate him just to get him onto a point. but then the ability to give him dice, or alternatively, the way that Bossk performs in this is that when you're starting to get wounds and so you're recovering force, or you just have had some like general force light activations in general, you have extra force, you can payday to give them more dice, right? Where it's like, oh, well, Bossk is in range and so is like Noss and the Aquas, and Riff is making an attack, is going to go make an attack. I have extra force. Or I know that Riff is going to now get a wound, so I might as well payday Bossk so that he can become an aquatic. And so it gives you this really interesting way of spending your extra force, but you don't need it if you don't have the force. And I just feel like Bossk's payday synergy, I've used payday more with Bossk in this particular kind of list than any other time. Has that been your general experience with this kind of design?
Yeah, so it's like Bossk, when you have force refresh on the table and your payday says okay, how about this? Let me reword that real quick, okay? If I told you Bossk had an ability on his card that said pay 1 to add 2 dice to his attack, would you do it?
A lot of the time,
I would. Yeah. Because 2 dice added to Bossk is going to mean he's hitting 4 and 5 on his tree actually kind of consistently. And it's dirty because 4 is 7 damage, I think. I do believe. Anyways, 7 damage and a pin for 4 successes. That's really good for a 3 cost. That's insane. Or you go down and you do 6 damage and double shove. That's insane for a 3 cost. And I think people will undervalue the fact that is that a 4? Is it? He just also gets so much value from it.
If you come after a back point early in the game with like you get in range of the other squad and then Bossk comes up, you're like, yeah, I will payday and roll a gajillion dice into you. I have absolutely killed characters because of that. But overall, it's the Bossk being able to utilize this other part dials up the whole experience. And then the whole Riff package has really good synergy as well, right? Because Noss can move Mandos, it can move Baze and Chirrut, right? You also have Riff gets to go make bonus attacks and jumps and stuff off of Baze and Chirrut. And you really just have to keep Mando away from the Aqua Droids. And you have a list where almost everyone is Shatterpointable, where Bossk might be the character you Shatterpoint the least. But I've definitely had games where he was sitting at like 6 damage, 2 conditions. And I was like, I'm going to Shatterpoint him so that I can just heal him to full. Because I just don't need anything in particular this turn. And he can take a point. And so it's a cool weaving. And it's kind of like what we talked about with your episode, right? Where it was a jack of all trades. I feel like this list is also that way. I would play this in a showdown event. And I feel like it could hang with almost anything. There's probably isn't anything where I feel like I'm totally out of it. Is that your kind of experience with it? Or do you think this has like a really hard counter?
If we had a triangle here where, let's just say, control, aggro, revenge as a triangle, this kind of, in my opinion, is like more down in the middle, but downward a little bit because it has a little less control. Like, yeah, you got Mando, but that's like your only real control. Still very good. But it is a jack of all trades list. It has good aggro. It's not very tanky, but it has the revenge that matters for what this list wants to do, because this is another list that's like, I'm going to be pushing, I'm going to be jumping, I'm going to be taking ground, and then taking ground from the opponent. And this list does it very, very well. And it's very hard to deal with this list, because any list that has Mando in it is, okay, kill me. That's what I love about Mando list so much, is it's just like, how do you get around something that your opponent gets to do because you're playing the game?
Yep. And it's, again, kind of like what we were talking about in the last episode. Everything is kind of a priority target, right? You'd love to get Noss wounded so that you can increase the cost of that ability. You really want to get the supports wounded so you could try to remove them from the table. You want to get, you want to actually kill Bossk, like everything you kind of want to get wounded, and you just often can't prioritize all of the different pieces. When you've played something like that or something like this, Is there anything specific, like strategy-wise, that you think is really important to playing the list overall?
I would say this is a list that very much rewards proper positioning and being very mindful of your positioning.
Fair.
You need to be able to get actual money off of your blood in the water. You need to be in range to get your force refresh. And if you're that 1 millimeter out of range, you're not getting that force refresh. It's not global. You want to benefit from your hunkers that Mando gets to give out, because almost everybody with the Aqua Droids, right? They get a hunker.
No, they are not a scoundrel, mercenary, or bounty hunter. So,
isn't Riff a scoundrel?
Riff gets it. The Aquas don't.
Yeah, everyone but the
Aquas, yeah,
which is massive. It's very rare that Mando gets to give out that many hunkers. Usually, it's like 1 or 2. In my experience, so being able to actually pass out hunkers and like recovers is kind of nice.
Let's hit on that. Like, is big. The condition removal is a really big deal in this, and I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Because a lot of the time, if there's extra conditions on Baze and Chirrut, you may have to not refresh as much force, right? And so removing a condition from them could net a force, which is a big deal. Removing strain from Bossk can be a huge deal because that turns on his entire regeneration kit, and you could potentially be removing pin or strain from Riff to then set up him getting another bonus attack at some point. So that aspect of Mando's kit gets turned on a lot more in this than perhaps a lot of other lists. Like, you need to not forget that part of his kit.
Yeah, I got a question for you.
I got an answer for you.
Did you know when you activate Boss and you flip over his order card, if you payday, you get rid of strain to where you can full heal?
Yes, I was aware of that. It is definitely a tool to like have where you payday to remove strain. Or, if he's wounded, right, you just remove strain and then he can heal off all the conditions. But yeah, paydaying to remove strain is definitely a really cool part.
As long as it's not going to kill you.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want it to kill you. So if you've got 4 health left, in the spare force, it can definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how the list just all together, comes together, knowing when to use Bossk's bomb to try to like finish off a target, that, say something that, only gets a revenge off of an enemy attack, right? Mm-hmm. Like Kanan or Paz, if you get to kill them with the Bossk bomb, you get to ignore that sort of thing. Also deciding whether or not you want to split up the supports, right? As opposed to ganging up on things, splitting them up so you have a better chance of attacking something that Riff can then go after. And that aspect of it where your supports get to move a primary make this list a whole lot more mobile than maybe it seems like it is on paper. You're like, Mando doesn't move allies, right? You only really have Noss who moves allies, and Mando can provide just enough incentive to maybe, make someone not attack Riff. But I would say that an essential part of this is getting Mando into positions where you threaten taking an objective from someone to decentivize a wound. And so you do instinctually, right? A lot of times you put a character right on the middle of an objective to make it harder to shove off. I think with Mando, you need to often make a decision where you put him on the edge of an objective where he's within walking distance of another objective, and do that probably as much as possible. Do you agree with that, or do you think I
would agree. I think it's you're missing out on a piece of Mando if he's not always a move away from securing an objective, either taking something away from your opponent or holding something for yourself and saying your opponent now has to overcommit to an objective, or you have the cheeky, you can't leave that objective or I'm going to take it away from you. That's like one of the biggest ones that I think is always, you may have gotten an objective, but the score is still the same because you took one, but I took one of yours at the same time. Mando can be so cheeky like that. It's so much fun. I want to ask you though.
Sure.
Because you mentioned splitting supports. And I know you tried Han and Chewie out over Baze and Chirrut at one point in time.
I have. Yep.
Do you want to go into what landed you on Baze and Chirrut over Han and Chewie?
I would say the biggest reason for it is kind of the consistency. I think Han and Chewie tend to do a little bit more damage overall. The problem that I have with them is that to get both of them to points, they're often spending 2 force. So when I'm playing a 5 force list, right, it can create situations where suddenly I'm depending on them to get a wound to keep the force balance going. Because the payday aspect is really cool. But when you like, oh, I'm going to payday so that I can get aquatic dice, right? And then I'm going to spend 2 force to get on points. And you're like, but then I'm going to get this wound, but they're going to be within range 4 of Riff, so I'll recover 2 force. If your dice bail on you in that moment, it sets the whole game back such a huge step. Whereas Baze and Chirrut are a little bit more consistent, so you get to do the cool things in this list, like Payday Bossk. You get to experience some of the interesting synergies that you wouldn't necessarily always get to utilize. But Baze and Chirrut kind of smooth that out. That's where I've kind of leaned. But I mean, I wouldn't begrudge someone playing Han and Chewie with this. It's a little bit more high risk, high reward, but I'm not sure it's less strong.
I think, I hate to say this because I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. I think it's just Baze and Chirrut, a majority of the community are on page with this, that they are very, very good. And I feel like you are leaving something at home by taking Han and Chewie over them in this list, mostly because their output is just insane.
Yeah, they are quite good. Like I said, it's just if Han and Chewie were just in a average force cost range, right, where both of them got to move for 1 force, I think you're in a conversation where it's a really close. You're like, oh man, the bonus wounding potential and like really solid. I
would say just I do think if you didn't have Bossk, then Han and Chewie become more interesting because now they want the payday instead of Bossk wanting the payday. But currently, as it is, I think Bossk gets more from the payday than they do. But if you had Han and Chewie or didn't have Bossk, then there is actually a conversation that you take Han and Chewie there instead.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I love payday models in this list design. And so it would be certainly something to keep on the radar, especially if like another 3 threat comes out and you're like, oh, well, what about that 3 threat plus Han and Chewie? Right? Like you could easily have a really cool option there. But I would just say Mando, Bossk, Baze, and Chirrut is probably my favorite squad in the entire game. I think agree. You can play that with a ton of different things. Playing it with the Riff box is definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite, just because it's not overpowering in any particular sense. I can put this on the table against anyone at the game store, and it's not like double revenge. It's not like overwhelmingly super woundy. It's not, I'm going to take all of the midline objectives right away. It just does kind of everything a little bit above average. And so people have fun playing against it. I don't care what my opponent's playing. If I brought this list, I'm ready for a good game. Right. And I think that's a real high point of this list.
I'm currently playing this squad with Mother on the other side, and it's kind of good. Like Mother's in a good spot right now.
I'm not opposed. I have certainly been playing the Mando squad with Mother, but I wanted to shout out this Riff one because it is really cool. And so,
I do one more question for you.
Sure.
Because this is a very interesting list construction because you have 2 3s and 2 5s.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Do you feel that having 2 3s limits output at all in any means, way, shape, or form?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you're going from the average, like, full shuffle of a list, right? Mm-hmm. I do think an important part of playing a list like this is knowing when to activate your 3s, right? And I do see some people over reserve. Right. And you actually have like a solid Bossk activation. It's not anything like flashy, but you reserve for something super flashy. And then you're trapped into Bossk at a moment where it doesn't do anything for you. Yeah. And so I do think learning how to play the 3s, recognize when you're like, you pass that level where it's just like, oh, I have a medium to good activation with them. Let me take that, even if it's not spectacular. It is a list where like, I don't want to say it's a list that can't come from behind because I think it really can. Yeah. But it's a list where reserving incorrectly can certainly backfire on you. And so having good overall plans around when you reserve and how you reserve, and just, choosing which side of the table Noss and Bossk end up on, like where ingress points and stuff are. Make sure you're thinking about that kind of stuff. Because it's really nice when like Noss can like advance and hit a ladder and get onto a key point and can still move someone else. Like keep that kind of stuff in mind.
Yeah, I would make the argument too that because of Aqua and Nossor and all that, it kind of bumps Bossk up to a 4 level of damage output because you're more consistently hitting that 8 damage. Like it's, I would 100%. Argue it makes him a 4.
Well, and it makes his bomb better, right? Because there's more often where you're getting them down to 1 or 2 health, where you're like, really? And just the list spreads around damage so well, just like in general. It's a lot of moving parts too. You definitely want to remember all the things, remember the heals, but I think this is a super cool list. I would absolutely play this at a tournament. Like I said, I'd play this in Showdown. And I think there's a lot of things that it's fun to pair it with. And even though I'm very anti-anchor list, I would do this Mandalorian anchor and play it with like Riff Box, Delta Box, maybe Mother, maybe Armorer. Like, there's a lot of interesting things where you could be like, I'm going to play Mando, Bossk, Baze, and Chirrut every game, but I'm going to bring these other 3 things that like do cool stuff with this list. And so if you like playing Mando a lot, this could be right up your alley.
I would implore you to try this, to basically try this Mando list with Maul. I
would not be opposed to it.
Now you really have the force to be able to do everything you want to do. I think this is a baller squad to put into any list. Like you said, you can anchor this list and feel comfortable with it.
I would I play this and like play Maul, Gar Saxon, Clan Kryze? Yes,
maybe.
Yes, I would. But try the Riff version. I think it's a lot of fun. If you have not tried Riff, I think he is one of the most versatile releases that we've had in quite a while. And so he can just go with a lot of different things. And it is so fun getting to turn both of your 5-cost supports into also moving a primary. So
it's just really funny that Riff came out and most general consensus was this is the drop of the release wave. He might be one of the best ones of that release wave.
2025 was just a baller year for release.
That's true.
Period. But yeah, I think his is flying under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it might be one with the most longevity.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely get out there and try it. Definitely get out there and check out Rogue Support with Dyzard, the legend.
Wow. And
encourage him to play his favorite list at a GT. Don't let him talk himself out of it. We'll see you later, nerds.
Bye.
Peace.